for us 22 minutes a day, which is 11 minutes in the morning, 11 minutes in the evening. Anybody who exercises will be in their element. Number 3, emotional regulation, which is just a posh way of saying mental health. That's another topic in itself. If you want me to come back, I'll talk about it. But getting your psychological state right. When you're not in a good psychological state, you're not in a good physical state. But that's a topic in itself. Sleep, really important to have at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep over a 24-hour period. Again, another topic in itself, but I haven't got time to talk about it. Avoid substance misuse, which is what we're going to talk about here. Anything that's addictive is classed as a misuse of a substance. So think alcohol, think drugs, think vaping, think smoking, and currently now, social media, phones, television, so forth, screens. And the 6th thing, which you cannot do without, is spiritual growth, which is your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your maker. Each and every single one of us sitting here today, we've been made. And we've been made by a being called Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has infinite knowledge. Think about it. We came from literally a drop, and then now we're a human being. An impeccable design from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that didn't just come from nothing. Yani you and I were made. And one of the tasks of existing on this planet is to connect with your Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. And people who are connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are in their element physically. Physically they feel like they're in their element. So these are the 6 key things that a human being needs. But we're going to focus on this, addiction. So addiction, let's talk about definitions first. It's defined as not having control over doing or taking or using something despite it being harmful. Does that make sense? Doing, taking, using something repeatedly, obsessively, despite it being harmful. Okay? That's what an addiction is. Now when you think of addictions, only a few things come up, but actually you can be addicted to a lot of things. These are the top 10 things that people are addicted to. I'll let you read it for yourself. Okay, top 10 things. Who would have thought shopping? But it is. And we'll talk about the science behind what actually happens to the brain when someone falls into a type of addiction. Now, I've had to skip that slide because there's just really young children here. I don't want to open up windows that you don't need to open up. But I'll try and talk in a covert way with some of the adults. But if you look at, okay, what is the actual cause for someone falling into an addictive type behaviour? Now, when you think addictions, think drugs, alcohol, gaming, phones, Instagram, social media, shopping, etc., etc., right? What causes a human being to fall into that? Generally, what medics say is that there's actually 2 or 3 top causes that trigger someone to end up going into any form of addictive behaviour. By far, right at the top is when an individual has experienced trauma. Let me ask you a question. There's some young people here. What do I mean by trauma? And Newport people are asleep on Friday night. It's like, is that a long week for you guys or something? Huh? What do I mean by trauma? What does that mean to you?
Bad things.
Correct. Bad things. A human being, when they've experienced bad things, how would they feel? Up here. How would they feel? Depressed. They'd feel sad. They'd be a bit emotional. They might feel anxious. They might feel down. Okay? But hold on to what I'm saying. Any form of trauma can trigger then somebody falling into a mental health problem like depression. Who's heard of depression? Hands up. Only one person's heard of depression here. MashaAllah, Newport's a very happy city. MashaAllah. Honestly, who's heard of depression? Put your hands up. That's better. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, it's being in a very, having a very low mood for a long time and not being able to function, not being able to do things. Okay, people with a mental health problem usually fall into addictive types of behaviour. Let me break down why and how this happens. That's 2 of the main causes, but this is another cause. What does this slide mean? What's this slide trying to say?
Peer pressure.
Peer pressure, okay. Otherwise, just do it, otherwise you don't fit in. Okay? Obviously boredom. When you get bored and you got nothing to do, what's the easiest thing to do? Go on your phone or start gaming. Okay? When you've got nothing to do. This is the ultimate tragedy. Who recognises this? This is part of their home. Everyone. No one talks at home anymore. because everybody's glued to their phone or the screen. And if you look, there's a lot of young people here. Remember this because one day, inshallah, you'll be parents as well. And those that are parents as well, maybe it's always possible to change. But for a child to have a solid relationship with their parents is ridiculously important. Like, I cannot stress how important it is to have a solid relationship. Believe it or not, if a parent does two things with their children, it increases their solid relationship. Anybody can guess what these two things are? No, doing something. Huh? Okay, specifically. Studies have shown if you just do two things. Number one, your weekly shopping. Going to Asda, Tesco, Aldi, wherever you shop. Take your kids with you. Doing that. And having a family meal together at least once a day with no screens. No screens. No one on their phone with TVs at home. You just sit and you just talk as a family. Hey, how was your day? What did you do today? How was the day? Did you hear about this? Just having that 20, 30-minute conversation on the table does far more to have a solid family than going on a holiday every year.